I didn't notice the clock until the third night. It wasn't anything special, just a plain wall clock, the kind you find in discount stores. Beige plastic frame, black hands, no second tick. When I first moved in, it was already hanging in the living room. I had asked the landlord if it was okay to remove it. He looked at me, then shrugged, said, "You can try, but it always comes back." I thought he was joking. The first night I fell asleep on the couch. Woke up around 2:40 am, dazed, needing water. I passed the clock. It read 2:19. I didn't think much of it. Drank, went back to bed. Second night, the same thing. Awake in the dark, no reason. Clock said 2:19 again. But this time I stayed up, stared at the minute hand, waited. After what felt like 10 minutes, it hadn't moved. I checked my phone. 2:27. Looked at the clock again. Still 2:19. I tapped the glass. Nothing. The third night, I watched it from 2 am on. It ticked normally until it hit 2:19, then stopped. Just paused. Not broken, not jammed, just waiting. The air in the room shifted. Softer, like sound had gone slightly underwater. I couldn't hear the hum of the fridge anymore, or the distant traffic. Just silence, like the room had forgotten what came next. At 2:20, the ticking resumed. But I never saw the hand move. It just was already ahead. Like time had skipped a step, and I wasn't invited. I took the clock down the next day, put it in the closet. That night, I slept a little better. Woke up just before 3, went into the living room. The clock was back on the wall. 2:19. I stood there for a long time. I didn't move. I didn't look away. The ticking didn't return. It stayed frozen. That's when I realized I didn't remember falling asleep, or brushing my teeth, or turning off the lights. It was like the night had started and then been fast-forwarded without me. I tried to record it, set up my phone facing the clock, let it run from 2 am. The next morning, the video ended at 2:18, cut clean. Nothing after, no error, just gone. But the clock was still there, still at 2:19, still waiting. I asked the tenant below me if they'd ever had weird power issues. She looked at me like she already knew what I was going to ask. Just said, "Don't worry. It's always 2:19 for a reason." Then closed her door. That night, I unplugged everything, stared at the bare wall where the clock had been, slept with the lights on. And still at 2:19, I woke up to silence. Even the hum in my chest, the steady presence of being alive, felt quieter. Like I was standing in a paused world, a moment just before something, but I didn't know what. The next few nights blurred. I tried to ignore the clock, tried to stay asleep through 2 am. But every night I woke up at 2:19, sometimes sitting up in bed, sometimes already standing in the living room without remembering how I got there. The more I tried to track the moment, the more it slipped. I stopped setting alarms. I stopped fighting it. I started keeping a notebook by the couch, writing down whatever I felt, saw, or didn't see. Most entries ended the same. Nothing moved, but I didn't feel alone. One night, I sat across the room, eyes on the clock, camera rolling behind me. 2:18 came. I blinked. The next thing I knew, the clock read 2:21. My notebook was in my lap. A new line had been added in handwriting that looked almost like mine. Don't look away next time. I watched the video. It glitched exactly at 2:18. A single frame frozen. I zoomed in. The frame showed me still rigid, facing the wall. But something was off. My posture, my neck, the way my head tilted like I was listening through bone instead of ears. I didn't remember standing, didn't remember looking, but the camera had seen it. I tried to leave the apartment the next night, go sleep somewhere else. But every hotel I called was full. Every friend I messaged left it on read. When I finally gave up and returned, the clock was gone, the wall bare. But at 2:19, the silence came again, and with it, a knock, just once, from inside the wall. I pressed my ear to it, heard nothing. Then something, bare feet shifting on tile, breathing close but calm, like someone who already lived here. That night, I dreamt I was watching myself sleep. I stood beside the couch, hands limp, face still, eyes open. I didn't blink, I didn't move, but I felt a pull, not from me, but from the space behind me, like something was standing even closer, watching both of us. I woke up gasping. Clock said 2:19 again. No ticking. I walked to the wall, touched it. It was warm, not body warm, memory warm. I whispered, "What are you waiting for?" And for the first time, something answered. A whisper not through air, but through me. I never left. Then the ticking resumed, just once, sharp, like a page turning. I looked down. My notebook was open. The last line now read, "You were never supposed to wake up that night." I dropped the pen, stepped back, and in the reflection of the window, I saw myself still sitting on the couch, eyes open, unmoving, watching the clock stop again. I stopped writing after that. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't trust my hands. Every time I picked up the pen, the ink stuttered. Letters collapsed into each other like they already knew the sentence. The notebook filled itself some nights. I'd wake to find pages I didn't remember writing, lines that started in my voice and ended in someone else's. I read one over and over. If you remember this, it means you forgot the first time. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know when I'd written it. I started to wonder if I had ever really moved in. I couldn't remember what day I arrived. I couldn't find the contract I signed. The landlord stopped answering my calls. I went downstairs to knock. The door didn't open. The hallway felt longer, too long. The light at the end flickered, but never quite went out. That night, I decided to confront it. I sat directly in front of the clock. I unplugged everything else, covered the mirrors, set my phone timer, 2:17. I stared. The clock ticked. 2:18. One last breath. Then it froze. 2:19. I didn't blink. I didn't move. The room shifted, not in color, not in temperature, but in something deeper. A hum behind the bones. The kind of silence that presses instead of soothes. And then I saw it. Not in front of me. In the glass. In the faint reflection of the clock. Another me. Standing just behind. Staring at the back of my head. Not blinking. Not breathing. Waiting. I turned. Nothing. But when I looked back, the reflection was still there. It hadn't turned. It didn't need to. I pressed my hand to the wall, whispered, "Who are you?" And the clock whispered back, not aloud, but in the tick I hadn't heard in days. "You didn't survive it." I backed away, tripped, hit the floor, the ceiling spun. I felt cold, not outside cold, ending cold. I crawled to the notebook, flipped to the last page. A single line had been added in the center. My handwriting, simple, quiet. "You died at 2:19. We just kept going without you." And suddenly, I remembered the crash, the sound, the moment everything had stopped. But no one told me it was the end. I had just come home, opened the door, laid down, like routine had swallowed reality whole. And now, every night, at the same minute, the clock gave me a mercy. 3 minutes where the world remembered I existed. But that mercy had a cost. Because something else remembered too. Something that never left the room. Something that once looked like me and waited for me to take its place again. I didn't set an alarm that night. I didn't set up the camera. I didn't write in the notebook. I just sat on the floor, back against the wall beneath the clock, watching the minute hand approach 2:19 like it always did, with that same lazy, uncaring certainty. I felt calm, not numb, not afraid, just quiet, like I had finally stopped trying to swim against something that was never water in the first place. At 2:17, I closed my eyes, breathed in. The air didn't change. The walls didn't breathe. Nothing shifted, except me. I no longer felt like the person watching. I felt like the one being watched. And that made it easier. At 2:18, the room dimmed slightly, like a filter had slipped over the world. The clock ticked once more, then stopped. 2:19. I opened my eyes. He was already there. Not a ghost, not a shadow, just me. Standing where I always saw him, beside the couch, arms at his sides, face expressionless, eyes hollow not from absence, but from having seen too much of the same moment looped over and over again. He didn't move. Neither did I, but something passed between us. Not memory, not permission, something quieter, like a nod that never happened. I stood up, faced the clock, placed my palm on the glass. The hand didn't tick, but the glass felt warm, alive, for the first time. I turned toward the other me, and he stepped forward slowly, calmly, like someone who'd been waiting their turn. We passed each other in silence. I sat where he had stood. He sat where I had waited. And I understood then. It wasn't about death. It was about interruption. The version of me that had died at 19 never got to finish anything. Not a word, not a breath, not a thought. And now he was living 3 minutes at a time, every night, waiting for the rest of the sentence. And maybe I wasn't supposed to be here at all. Maybe I'd been filling space, holding ground, so he wouldn't be forgotten. But I was tired, so I let him sit. I let him watch. I let the clock restart. I blinked once. The second hand twitched. 2:20. And in that quiet click, I disappeared. Not into the wall, not into the dark, just into stillness. And now, when the clock stops at 2:19, if you listen carefully, you might hear a breath that doesn't belong to you. A presence just behind your shoulder, watching not to harm, not to haunt, but to ask softly, with eyes like yours, can I have my time back now?